That is right. It's the Underdog Fantasy Sanctuary Best Ball Show, and we are joined by Steph Miller, a legendary upside. We're going to draft in Best Ball Mania together, talk about how we feel we can win big in 2024. And there's loads that we can get into. But Steph, how's 2024 Best Ball treating you so far?
So far, it's been pretty fun. I've been, drafting for a while, did a lot of the big boards as well. So it kind of feels like, it doesn't really end anymore. Season.
Yeah,
around.
it just keeps going. I mean, I was looking at some stuff from last year, and last year Underdog ran 47 different contests, but it just feels like there's going to be even more than that. I don't know how many they've launched already. Tyler, like, how many drafts deep are you at this point?
That's a great question. It's at least 220 post draft that are complete, and I've probably got like another 10. So probably like somewhere between 230 and 250 post draft so far. And I feel like I have been not really firing off as much as I would. Like I'm not trying to max everything, and I'll try when I can. So even Matt is throwing me for a loop because I'm drafting a lot, but I feel like I'm not drafting as much.
Yeah. How about you, Steph? Like, do you know the total number you're at so far?
I think I probably, for the post, close to 200 as well, kind of similar. I maxed a couple of the smaller stuff, but I'm not trying to, I will max BBM, but I'm not going to max like every puppy and things. But I'm not doing very much DraftKings at all. So it feels maybe like less volume than like last year, even though I probably will end up with more teams.
Yeah.
Once it's all said and done.
Don't think anyone's doing a whole lot of DraftKings. It's you go into the lobbies and it's just a complete snooze fest over there, to the point where me being stuck here in England where I can't access the Underdog lobbies myself, just turn it to content. And one video I'm working on this week, it's all about like the basics of best ball for people who are new to it and walk into it and see us sickos drafting a couple of hundred teams and talking about all kinds of obscure things. So Steph, I wanted to know, and Tyler, you can add yours in afterwards, but what was one thing that you would have liked to have known about best ball when you first started out that you know now?
I think just how important structure is over like even player takes and stuff. And just, you don't have to know every single thing or be, hit on every single situation right if you're structurally sound. And I think a lot of people still don't get, those basics and how to navigate the landscape structurally each year because it can change.
Are you saying it's not solved? I keep hearing it's solved.
I'm saying it's not quite solved. There might still be a few things to figure out.
Incredible.
Tyler, how about for you?
I mean, I remember when I first got started and probably like really hammer home that like these players, this is what you got on your roster. And so like structure is important because there's no way to backfill when shit hits the fan. And then also like I think just the basics are so important. Like stacking is important. A falling pocket passer is not that good for your roster in best ball. Like outside of 12-man leagues, like inside your little 12-man league best ball, like fine, no big deal because you can replace points. But in tournaments, like it's a trap value because like it hurts your team. And then same thing with positions. Like if and even to this day, like if a falling ADP value takes you out of sound structure, it hurts your roster way more than it helps because someone else has got that value with a better construction. And so like just like discipline, which I mean, let's life lesson. Like if I could go back in time, be like, hey, a little bit of discipline, buddy. Yeah, like just discipline of staying in structure and thinking about stacking in that regard. And like just every draft, if you can end it with a sound team playing the room well, you've done everything you can give yourself. And sometimes, early on, I could either play the room really well or draft the players I really liked. That didn't mean my team was good, and I got dusted my first year. So yeah, just being told, here are the basics, stick within this stuff, and don't get cute. And and I feel like we all fight that still to this day.
Yeah, but that was kind of one of the first points which I got to was nothing quite prepares you for your first year of playing tournament best ball because it's so difficult. It's so difficult to be profitable and it's so difficult to win. And even if you advance a decent amount of teams, you forget how brutal that first week of the playoffs is when you go from going, oh, it's great. I've got 40 teams in one contest through and everything's looking really good. And then you go, oh, okay, I've got 5 teams left maybe. And then you're like, okay, well, actually, that's about average and I'm still doing okay. But yeah, those tournament weeks in best ball are definitely difficult. And I think you just learn so much from the first year. Shout out to everyone in the chat. We got Andrew here saying great guest lined up today. Absolutely. And checking in. Historical Anomaly saying, don't worry, you've got your meat puppet Tyler to draft for you. Absolutely. We are going to get into Ball Mania in a few minutes, but first, it'd be kind of rude of us to bring Steph on and not let her talk about her Dallas Cowboys. How high in general are you on Dak and CD Lamb? And is there anyone else from the Cowboys that you kind of being aggressive on in drafts?
Well, I actually just did a draft submission on Dak for Player Profiles draft kit. So I think he's a really great value right now. Still where he's being drafted in the 90s. And he finished as the overall quarterback 3 last year. The Cowboys were the highest scoring offense of the regular season. They had a positive pass rate over expectation. With them not doing a whole lot in the run game, I expect they're going to have to lean heavily on the pass. We saw Mike McCarthy, calling the offense last year. And he did, after the bye week, way better than I thought. He figured out, hey, if I just get the ball in CeeDee Lamb's hands, good things tend to happen. They let him, play out of the slot. They let him rush. They let him do everything. And so, and there's not a lot of competition for CeeDee either. So I think that those two could just, the target share could just be outrageous. And, they could just be ridiculous home runs. At the same time, even though I don't think the run game is going to be necessarily great. I do think they will still give the ball to Rico and to Zeke. And I think where they're going in drafts is a huge value. And I think Rico may still be my most drafted player overall, even though I'm not necessarily trying to. He just tends to, even if I skip him, come back to me. And then it's like,
how heavy are you on? How heavy are you on Rico?
In the 20s. I'm not
okay.
super, super heavy on anyone from what I've seen so far. I will, sometimes get up to maybe low 30s on a guy. I don't limit myself in that way. I just think I naturally tend to diversify a little bit and try to keep my eye on my mixture of players and my structures. Even last year when we looked at our card similarity, which I didn't max, but I still had mine, and I was thinking the 80th percentile on diversification, and I had a way above average advance rate as well. So, the correlation has shown. So
yeah, I'm definitely trying to be a little more balanced in some regards. Like last year, I try to play things a little more aggressive than I normally did, and it didn't work out for me. And I'm not playing scared because of that, but it was just a good reminder of kind of, where you pick your points to be aggressive feels as important as anything else. Andrew in the chat says, what do you think is more important, player takes or your team build process? Steph, you got a strong lean on that one?
Well, kind of what I alluded to this already earlier. I think structure and your team building process for sure. Over, a player take. Now, there's certain players that I may think are like a screaming value and take a stance, but overall structure and I try to, I'll incorporate a lot of different structures as well. It's not just one structure for me. I think a lot of people just don't know how to shift their focus and build optimally for the structure they choose. Kind of like I let the draft usually come to me in the first few picks and let that kind of dictate what structure I take and things of that nature.
Yeah, so we're going to be picking up a 107. Feels like that's a range where you can kind of pick your poison a lot. When you land on the 107, are you leaning towards like a Bijan or a Brees, or are you just pushing past to the next wide receiver tier?
It depends. I tend to follow ADP for the most part in the first round. Once I get more like BBM drafts in, if I do find that I'm lighter than I want on a guy, then I may, shift to target them. But I don't like to take huge stances unless there's somebody I don't agree with in the first round because I want, those guys could all bury you basically. So I do want exposure there.
Is there anyone like that
Bijan maybe the
right now
lightest.
for you that you're not
Pardon?
comfortable with in the first round?
I still take everybody for the most part. I think I take usually Brees and Bijan after Puka goes.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. I feel like this year was hard for me to kind of find fade stances
Yeah.
given prices. So I'm assuming since you like ADP, Justin Jefferson at 7 is what you would go for.
Yes.
Smash that.
It's one of those things. It's like I feel like Justin Jefferson falling. Like I get the reasons. I get the concerns with quarterback play and the offense a little bit, but would any of us look back and be that surprised if he ended up being the highest scoring guy? Like it's Justin Jefferson. What are we doing? At the same time,
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I jumped in something like 60 of the $2 drafts last week, and the one thing I went into those drafts with was I'm going to take Justin Jefferson at almost any opportunity outside of the first 2 picks, and it feels fucking amazing. Shout out to Dale in the chat, like and subscribe because you can never have too many best ball streams to watch. Got loads here this week. Wednesday, be live for DraftKings draft every week. We're on DraftKings on Wednesday. Friday this week, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. We've got Pete Overzet joining us for a Friday happy hour. Next Monday, we'll be back with Cash from Fantasy Unleashed, talking ADP and Underdog, everything in between. So yes, do hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already.
I do want to just circle back real quick. I'm going to cut you off. Sorry, Tom. I got it. I will say one of the things, so I am a big player take person, and like Steph, I try to do it from like the angle of a few strong stances on either like prices or just profiles. 2 years ago, people afraid of Saquon coming off the ACL. Same thing last year with Brees, like these really athletic young running backs who data says, we shouldn't be that concerned with. But ADP is shifting them down. Amon-Ra coming into year 2, being in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round. People saying it's a fluke. Shit like that. I wanted to be 30 to 40% above exposure on. What I've learned the last few years is that if that's not super obvious, don't force it. And maybe the stance is just like who like a fade stance of like who is truly mispriced that I want to avoid from like the health perspective or anything like that, and then be very light on. And like Steph, like mixing and matching those things is something I had to work on of like how those rosters came out. And so I think combining those two things, finding a way to combine those two things consistently well is important. We're on the clock. Given structure talk, I'm assuming you want to go receiver here unless you like Jonathan Taylor a little past ADP.
He's okay, but I think I feel more comfortable going receiver here as well.
Okay. Who do you want?
How about either Adams or Collins here?
Let's go the youngin.
All
Tom?
right. That feels fun.
Yeah, no, Nico works for me. That's where I would have gone with this one. I do like Devontae Adams. I've taken a little, but it just feels slightly rich for me still. I mean, we know Devontae Adams is an absolute stud. We know that there was multiple games last year, even with Aiden O'Connell throwing the ball, that he still got there. But it just feels like a hard click for me. Like if Devontae Adams was going at the 210, I'd probably have 3 or 4% more exposure, and I'll end up with him going around the middle part of it. But yeah, Steph, are you taking much Devontae?
No, he's one of I'm definitely underweight there as well. I have to force myself to get some because I want a little exposure blanket. I don't want to be 0 because he does have. I mean, we've seen the ceiling, but it's hard to not go with the fine young receivers in that spot.
It's one of those guys I with all of the fun stuff, I'm shocked. Like I remember last year liking him and raging against Rob Coakley's like prophecy. And then Devontae Adams has like a 40-point game in week 17, but was stupidly hard to get to the finals because of his yo-yoing of QB and offense. But like he was going pick 25 through 28 at the end of draft season in BBM. And now he's never falling out of the second round. I'm so confused on how the market has decided they were more afraid of him last year with Jimmy G and AOC than they are with Minshew and AOC this year. Is it like Jacobs is gone, so we just assume more targets? But like he's got Brock Bowers in town now and a different head coach. I'm so confused at why I can't get him a little bit cheaper, like I can, like Diggs. Diggs is in the third round and falls to the turn sometimes, and I'm just shocked that Adams is just not moving almost ever, and that's why I haven't gotten a whole lot of him, because I'd like him a little bit cheaper every now and then. Like if I get a fade guy, I want him at the best price, and that's confused me with him because like he is older and has had a little bit of fall off, and there's who knows what the end of the year is going to be like if they miss the playoffs. He's got no true incentive to know, so it's weird. I don't want to be like acting like none of that's an issue.
Well, where you went there at the 212 Devontae Adams, like I'd take that every time.
Yeah, and I never get that.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah, me either. I was like, yeah. I mean, if he fell, sure. But I mean, I agree with a lot of what like Tyler's saying, and it's like I could see kind of similar almost to like with Keenan. Maybe it's not even a serious injury. Maybe it's like just something small. But he's like, nope. I know I'm not even going to be here next year. I'm out. Yeah. I'm sitting. I don't want to be in the game if we're already out of contention and stuff. So I think there is some more risk than people want to let on. And plus, I mean, none of us are expecting the Raiders to be that good.
Yeah,
but we are expecting Brock Bowers to be fucking amazing. And I hope I can cuss. Because
I'm not expecting much. I don't know what to expect of that dude, to be honest. And
I think he's amazing, but I don't know if they'll get him, how the quarterback is.
What do you like in this range with on the board?
Well,
Steph?
There's two ways we could do this.
Agreed.
One is to pull somebody up and try for it that way with Tom's favorite team, and the other is to go the Texan double route.
What do you want to do?
I'll let you guys pull it.
Go on quickly.
All right, Diggs.
I heard no input. What do you want me to do with that?
Hey, I was like, I
was waiting for feedback.
I can't keep banging the table for Raven stacks in every stream, or people are going to start unsubscribing. It's
but I did it. I pulled it out.
That's a fun little double. I mean, I can't
still
be mad
fun.
at that.
But yeah, we've definitely got options with that one. And what I like more now is that CJ Stroud seems to finally be falling a little bit.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's a little more palatable to take him than it's been over the last couple of months, so last month, 6 weeks or so. But yeah, in terms of the Ravens, getting that triple stack of Flowers, Mark Andrews, and Lamar, I've done it a few times, but it just feels like 9 times out of 10 that you try to do that, people just screw you over right at the very last bit.
It's tough to get, but at the same time, it's like then a lot of times, sometimes I'll leave the quarterbacks last. So then it's like, okay, so if they end up taking Lamar, then I can just take Stroud.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It kind of, I mean, and it's not the worst thing in the world to have a bunch of Cowboys and Ravens stacked without the quarterbacks. I mean, you could still make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the team out of the 209 who went Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs. I've not seen that too much, although it probably is happening in these wide receiver heavy drafts. Are you guys, like Steph, how much are you mixing in a dual RB start? We know obviously one big for Crane 2 years ago, but it was a very different landscape. But it just feels like, and kind of going back to Andrew's point about this take 3 to 4 running backs in a row to start the draft that you've seen on Twitter, I'm definitely not doing that, the robust RB, but are you doing much of these dual RB builds when you get a nice value fall like this?
I've done it a few times, but I haven't really liked my teams. So not a ton. I have in the past. I mean, I have no problem if there's a value, doing it and then backing off. Again, I haven't done the old school hyper fragile where you start like with the 3 and then, either don't take a 4th or wait till late. But and Crane wrote on this recently, it's just like we can get guys that would have gone in these earlier rounds a little bit later. So it's easy to do like a hyper fragilist build if you wanted to go that route after getting like, a 3 wide receiver start or 4 or something like that.
What
Yeah,
are we
absolutely.
thinking here? We take the following Laporta, or
I mean, I'm not huge on him, but this is tough. But I mean, that value, it's hard to pass up, even though we got the
Yeah.
correlation the other way. But I feel like that might make us more unique.
Yeah, I'd take the 8 spots on Laporta. I think, like, when you're talking about the first 4 rounds, anything over
in the
5
middle-
spots just feels hard to turn down.
Yeah, the
yeah,
middle of the
especially
fourth.
when Kelsey goes at the turn. So it's like I'm happy mixing him in there.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. So it's okay that we do that elite tight end there, Tyler?
It's quite all right. In fact, I think it's potentially very good to have a guy with a huge red zone role at one of the shittiest positions ever to grace God's game, fantasy baseball. So
At that price, I would be taking him every time.
well,
if he's
especially
going
like
into the fourth.
there are guys to mix in late when if you're going to go just like 2 tight ends in the elite, the Musgrave being called out as one of the best price adjusted tight ends. I think there's several tight ends kind of starting to show themselves as potentially really, really good values late and mid in the draft. And so, chasing those types of like breakout profiles really boosts a like elite tight end pick, because then you get like both of them working in concert and making that work, because elite tight end can be really pricey to do an opportunity cost on. So it's I like Musgrave, especially if Tucker Kraft's going to miss so much time with the Peck stuff. And one thing, Steph, that folks may not know about you is that you're on like the player health side of things, like I am. Where is it? So while I'm getting my balls busted about playing doctor with players, I think it's really one of the only places that we have like a huge edge to like exploit and leverage in fantasy drafts, because a lot of people like myself aren't very smart with like, what human body physiology shit is. But if you have if you can just go read data, and with a few of the fancy doctors in the space, so, with player fades based on like historical data that maybe they're mispriced and stuff, that's a huge leverage point. So with that, I'm kind of curious to kind of pick your brain on like, are there any players you're like really not comfortable taking at all, or at least at price early in these drafts, given their injuries?
Yes, very much so. Chubb, Hawkinson, Dobbins are the big ones for me. Now, let me follow this up with Brees was one of my highest drafted players last year.
Mm-hmm.
Age, I don't think people realize just, what we've seen in the studies, how much age impacts these injuries, as well as if it was like a clean injury or not. When we talk about ACL tears, if it was single or multi-ligament, and we could make our pick here, and then I'll keep talking a little
Who
bit
we liking
more.
here?
I mean, I'm Keenan Allen, but I'm open to other choices.
I mean, I'm good with Keenan. That's fine with me.
I think the only question there was whether I'll let you come back to your point, was just whether we wanted CJ Stroud, because the Tank Dell drafter is after us, but I'd prefer to get Stroud falling past ADP anyway. So let's see what happens. But if he comes back, that's an easy pick. So Steph, you were saying like those people who you'd not want in a draft, is there any kind of range where you would be in on them? Because I'd started off saying I wanted to see Hawkinson and Chubb fall to like the 140, 150 range, but now they're getting there. I still find myself not wanting to click them.
I think I took Hawkinson in a slow draft today, and it was my first time. And I had Trey McBride. So he fell, it was probably 10, 15 picks. And in that one, it was like, okay, I'm really depending on, Trey. And then if he came back, cool. If not, it may be not the worst thing in the world. Like, or, and they have, I'm trying to think, when is their buy? I don't remember. But so maybe in the right build also, like if you have an elite guy or somebody to cover, I definitely don't want it in a build where I'm thin at that position. So like the only time I really see myself even like also with Chubb, same thing, is if I already had like maybe 4 running backs that I would possibly stop at. But I'd say, I could do 5 on this team, and like he happened to really fall, and I could tack him on as a freebie where I really don't need him. But if he did something, it could be amazing. That would be like the only situations for me. And then Achilles, no, I'm just out.
Yeah,
I want no part of an Achilles and previous injury coming off. One of our best predictors of how many games they're going to play is the past season. And I don't know if you saw what he did the last season. It wasn't a lot because he had a ligament tear. I mean, I feel bad. I think the guy's talented, but the odds are really, really, really stacked. And even when he does come back, it could be almost 50% decrease in efficiency during that first year. If they actually make it past the first year, then they've shown that a player can return to efficiency actually post Achilles. But I think we have one player at the running back position that's done that, maybe two.
And it took him to
Foreman,
yeah. And Akers is the one everybody points to, but Akers was mostly just a volume play, and it didn't even hit till like later into the year. And
is Akers still in the league?
Well, again, point. Assuming we are done pushing our food around, unless we want to get super greedy.
No, I'm good with that.
Let's take the present.
Are we sure? It's like we own the Houston on this side of the board.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, I did what I could. I did what I could, Chad. Cowards.
I think for me, I'm because I didn't take any Stroud early on when his price was getting out of hand, but now that he is falling a little bit and the chance to kind of double stack him, I'm just happy enough to do that. And as Neil says, of course we took Keenan Allen.
Well, yeah, because what this
dog.
one team needed was another old with a tight hammy. No.
Hey, young guys can have tight hammies too.
I mean, they all have tight hammies apparently right now.
Yeah, most a lot of the speed guys.
So yeah, just going back to Dobbins, like I mean, I was definitely too heavy on him last year, but the only time I'm taking him on a few streams where it's been a kind of friends and family draft and people haven't wanted to touch him. And I've got him 50 spots past ADP in 2 different drafts. And it's like, I don't care who it is. I'm pretty much going to take him when they're 50 spots past ADP. But otherwise, yeah, you just kind of got to just push him aside and just not worry about it. And I think that there'll be more dips with players like that. And that's why I'm kind of quite comfortable waking on Hawkinson as well. We've got
one thing people kind of miss out on, like the injury stuff, for stuff like ACL tears, is the younger and more athletic a player is, the less likely it is a longer recovery, and the less likely it like really impacts their efficiency early on. Brees, great example last year of like, he was so young and so talented, and he had pass catching to his abilities, expected. And that's what really mitigated a lot of that risk. And even then, they like ramped him up for 4 to 6 weeks, and you saw his efficiency take about 4 to 6 weeks to like kind of return. And he really hit a stride weeks 9, 10 plus, and being able to catch passes helped that a lot. One of the reasons to be in on Jonathan Brooks is, we don't have a good athletic profile on him, but based on college speed data and things like that, we can be pretty confident in a pretty athletic guy. But he's so young that we can have confidence his body's going to recover really well, versus a guy like Nick Chubb, who is up there in age and has never really been a pass catcher. So it's like to mitigate, you can act like a 10th, 11th, 12th round pick's not a big deal because you can tell yourself a story about upside. But I think what people really struggle to, and I deleted a bunch of tweets yesterday because one really fucking tilted me, was just like, if you ignore what the injury can do to their new future like profile to produce on the field, then yeah, every pick can be super high end and worth the risk. But if you adjust for what that injury can do for the first 4 to 6 weeks of that player, if they return, then it becomes a much different game to play. Who do we like in here?
Well, maybe, even though we're talking about hamstrings, I mean, if we do Watson, we have Jefferson. So, that's another correlation we could kind of be working in, and gives us some more options, for stuff.
I like it.
I think that could be.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm comfortable taking Christian
field.
Watson, where you've only had like the 1 or 2 detours, but it's like if you're starting Jewel RB like we talked about earlier, Christian Watson's just not even somebody I see. Like, you've just got to go past him and find somebody with a little more of a floor, I think. So Tyler, could you just recap what we've got through 7?
Absolutely. In order of picks, we started with Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs. Got a little Awu, Sam Laporta, Keenan the Old Allen. We got a follow CJ Awu Stroud to complete our little Texans double stack. And we have Christian, please have healthy hammies for at least 6 weeks this season, Watson. So nice little 1051 build out of the 7 hole.
Nice. Steph, how are you feeling about his team?
It's a fun team.
Yeah,
I mean, I think, and there's, I've been having quite a bit of luck finding some really good running backs later. I think these 0 RB builds are really viable. And I like how we, and I like doing it where we get the elite tight end and we got an elite quarterback. So, I mean, that's the way to do it.
Cooking. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing too is like someone asked about like the whole like RB start stuff. It's like the landscape's changed, at least on Underdog. Like the wide receivers are much more expensive. So you're getting like there's the pockets are much more like there's the really great guys really early. There's a couple of interesting guys late, mostly rookies, probably who have untapped potential. And other than that, you're kind of fucked if you just decide to punt that off. Whereas the running backs have gotten cheaper. So it's like this whole like hyper fragile thing. Yeah, it worked 4 years ago. ADPs were way different. Player profiles way different. It was harder to find these like potential workhorses that are just mispriced. So building like this is very viable. In fact, probably most viable, especially early on, because we benefit from chaos and we're allocating properly. And that's the power of structure and God, baby. Not kidding.
I mean, that was the original entire essence of why 0 RB was a good strategy, going against the chaos of the season. We know that running backs are going to get hurt. We know injuries. We know that shit's going to hit the fan. We're planning our team around that, to not be fragile.
So call me radical, but Najee Harris in a 0 RB build, just hedging against everyone building 0 RB with Jalen Warren automatically, in or out?
I'm in.
I don't have a ton, but I'm not against it. Yeah, we can do it. I mean, I think both of them are good picks.
Who would you rather go if not Najee?
Is Ramondre there?
No, Ramondre went.
Oh, yeah. Then I'm Najee.
I'm good with it.
Yeah,
I'm good with it.
We've got a question in the chat from This Is Fine, one of our YouTube members. If you want to join the channel, hit the join button down below. Get 40% off all Spike Week products, my best ball rankings, richest dynasty rankings, and so much more. If we knew that Christian Watson would play 15 plus games this year, where does he get drafted? For me, it would be right around the George Pickens range in that sort of round 4 area. I think that's where you start to get the wide receivers with question marks around them. And as much as I like Christian Watson's ceiling, we've talked all off season about how crowded with talent that Packers wide receiver room is. Do you two have any kind of different feel on that?
It probably goes closer to Reed, I think.
Yeah, that feels about right. Because I mean, there could still be. Well, I think they're going to play slow, even though there might be volume.
But really, you think the pace is going to be slow?
It could be. Even they had it with Rodgers always. So we'll see if
the pace was faster
just
with
Rodgers,
Love, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit, but we'll see.
I think the pace was more of a Rodgers thing. He likes to like squeeze everything out and really figure out the coverages. And that was one of the good things about LaFleur without Rodgers was pace and like running the actual plays he wanted. And it seemed to work pretty damn well.
I just want to make sure I'm still I'm in on them, but I don't know. I still have some questions about Love how sticky it will be. I wasn't huge on him as a prospect coming in and stuff. And, it took, time, but he looked great. But it took a while. At the beginning of the season, we didn't think he looked so good. So,
he still scored
I want to make sure he doesn't kind of turn back a little bit, or take a step.
If he's streaky and pushing the ball down the field and they're at least calling up yak efficiency plays. Like, I think that's where like the bolstering of is Love good? Love can be average and just like swing between really great and because he's still pushing the ball down the field. He's still throwing the ball where it needs to go from like the short yak play stuff. And the system is kind of built to facilitate efficient plays like the Shanny stuff does. So I think that he doesn't have to be super talented to get something out of it, much like Jimmy Garoppolo. Like he didn't limit the offense from still being very efficient and effective for fantasy points. I think it was much more that I think some of it was like Love being raw and the pass catching core being very raw. Because with Watson being hurt, everybody else is like rookies and a second year 4th round pick. So I think part of that was like a little bit of like double newness.
I mean, that's fair, non-derogatory. Assuming that LaFleur is Shanahan, or at least not dumb, and
What do we
which he
like
seemed to be.
here?
I mean, I think we could probably. Do you guys want to do another running back here, or do you want to?
Yeah,
I feel like with our 0.
I'd be Singletary, but I don't mind.
Yeah, I like Singletary. I'm good with
Nimble
that.
fingers, Tyler.
I cannot be beaten. I am a time wizard. Bow down to me. Pete, come get
I was going to say,
hands,
when's
bitch.
Pete coming?
Friday, for anyone watching who did not hear, Pete, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Neil in the chat saying, how many routes are we assuming if Christian Watson plays 15 plus games? 70% route share. Well, he played 9 games last year, and in 8 of them, he was at 74% or higher. So, yeah, I think you have to say that's kind of where he's going to end up being. Like, it's just going to be really tricky.
I think it is fair to wonder how much the staff does try to just manage him. Because Green Bay is, like, from the health standpoint, Green Bay is one of the most proactive health staffs. Like, they're not playing players unless they're pretty confident the player's going to be good to go, unless, like, they're up against the wall. And even then, like when Aaron Jones did play last year, when he wasn't all good, he wasn't playing a high snap share. So you have to wonder, like, they've probably increased his like hammy deficiency by 20%, probably down by half. He still has like that previous injury that makes him more likely to be re-injured, but that lowers the re-injury risk. But you have to wonder, are they going to try to like manage him? Like, hey, he's valuable to this offense when he's on the field. Do we want him running all these routes? If we're not, like, that's what I want camp to kind of indicate is like, is he going to be full go, or are they going to kind of like pick and choose and rotate guys even more just to like find that rhythm and keep everybody healthy? Like, that's what I wonder, because they have the talent to be able to do that if they wanted to, but he is kind of like the alpha of that offense from like a size, speed specimen. So he should run a lot more of the routes. I'm just curious if they actually do that going forward, given they have all these young 2nd and 3rd year receivers now.
And those receivers were really good. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we look at the advanced stats, and they were some of the best overall in the league, with Reed and Wicks, and I mean, heck, even Bo Milton. No, I mean, even though he didn't play a lot, but I mean, so they have some talent there. And you were talking earlier, what if they do go more into some of that short yardage stuff than just the deep shots? I'm not saying they won't take them when it opens up, but we know how, a lot of defenses are now playing, this year, last year, and stuff as well. So there could be some management there.
Real quick.
Spears or a receiver?
Spears for me. Tyler?
Good.
Yep, I'm Spears. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, my dalliance into Javonte Williams streets, it hasn't lasted very long. Like, after clicking him maybe twice, and one of those on stream and forcing Tyler into it.
Same. I know I need to, but it's still hard. And I was like,
you don't need to. Here's my thing. Here's my pushback.
I hope
I
not.
acknowledge he could be a good pick and productive at ADP. I also acknowledge he's probably got a thinner path to like truly burying me or punishing me at ADP, given everybody else around him, especially late season, given what we don't know. Like, I'm very fine. I think there's very few players you can't arbitrage. So like, if there's going to be some sort of like 3 running back committee, like, I find a hard time believing that he can truly like bury me unless they're going to just like give it up. And the only way he does that is he just like runs pure on goal line stuff. And frankly, I'm not scared about a QB5 rookie, who a lot of people weren't sure was a 1st round rookie, leading a top 15 offense where Javonte scores 16 touchdowns. Like, I'm surely not scared about that outcome. His median outcome is he catches a lot of passes. He's a little bit more efficient than he was last year. The offense is probably a little shakier, or just as shaky under Russ from that. And now there's a new running back in the fold, potentially 2. We don't know Blake Watson. Like, I understand the price mitigates it a little bit, but like, we talked about like players have changed, and after his multi-ligament injury, he's not the same player he was 2 years ago. He's 2 years older, and he has, new fucked up knee. So it's like, he's still talented. It's just like, I don't think he's going to see like an 80% share, and just like bury me. And if he does, like, cool, whatever. I feel like my process was sound.
Hold on. He did come back though. And he didn't get re-injured. And it is the second year. So even though it was multi-ligament, that might be a longer recovery process. But once he comes back and gets over that initial hump, I don't think that's necessarily.
You don't think that's still an issue going forward?
Not really.
Okay. I mean,
not as much. I feel like it was for that period of time that he was first ramping up. It put him at a greater chance of re-injury and stuff. But at this point, if he's having a good off-season program, if he's got good trainers and doing things well, then awesome. There's a chance.
Yeah, I guess like the workload thing is more just like,
is he good?
He used the 3 running back committee. He drafted more Peyton. He drafted more running backs, and the beat has already said like we kind of see this running back committee going. So like he could be more efficient and still like volume wise if he's gonna be capped at like 50%. I mean, I don't know how much that can really do for us.
Yeah. I
say all that to say
he's still there. I think, at this point we gotta take him. It's worth it.
Okay.
Just deal with it. We took a nice big Shrek turd in the middle here. See, so now
no. Steph, you're our lovely honored guest. But on this channel, we pounded the ever-living shit out of the running back glory hole. Okay.
How did I know we were gonna act like? Please don't bring up the glory hole, please.
Well,
my face is gonna turn red on stream.
The glory hole is always waiting around the corner to come out. And you know what? Those are nice. Najee, Terry Spears, Javonte. I feel like that's every type of running back. And
so we just talked
about hyperfragile.
Yeah. And we've definitely done that. Javonte is definitely not in the glory hole. Javonte is like outside in the alleyway, just way past that point. But yeah, I mean, taking 20 pick scoop, you've kind of got to do it. I mean, it's difficult because like how many backs emerge from a 3 running back committee? That's what I kind of question with him. But yeah, I mean, we've got a decent enough RB build now that it should be okay. Maybe we could mix in a rookie for a little bit more upside, but otherwise,
feel pick 127. We don't need him to do that. If he does that, he's far superseded where we took him. Like now he's running back 4, and he's merely mixing in RB2. Anything more he does than that, and now I can go into the spin zone and say he's obviously got the speed size combination to be a red zone threat and take targets to the house. And how are you not smashing him at 127? I am price sensitive. I can change my narrative whenever I want.
Yeah, and I feel much better about Javonte at the price we got him than TJ Hawkinson going at 131. So, yeah. Swings and roundabouts, as some people say. We're a couple of picks away. Is there anything like quarterback-wise that we can be looking for our second quarterback? Or we kind of
let's see.
Mostly late stuff. It's looking like
unless we could take Goff, who is falling
skinny with Goff. Yeah. I'm not mad about it. QB tight end, just like consolidating the touchdowns.
I mean, we could do. I mean, we could do that, or take a receiver that has a late quarterback and go that route. Either one.
Okay, like who?
Like I guess Leggett or Polk would fit that.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think Leggett would make more sense because Polk gives us another week 14 bye.
Oh, good point.
Leggett,
good call.
Leggett,
I always
Tyler.
forget. Yeah, I'm good with Leggett. You hate Leggett. Hamstring, right? Nah. We got the hamstring team. Come on. Team hamstring. As we talk about that, we're sensitive to injuries here.
Dear God, think of the hamstrings.
Now, see, the former me could actually go and work on their flexibility and circulation and muscle balance and probably alleviate some of these issues possibly. That's kind of what I used to do. So I had quite a talent.
I mean, I like taking at that point we kind of punted receiver kind of far. And so I think it's very prudent to take a rookie with a big size speed specimen on an ambiguous wide receiver core with a huge upgrade along the offensive line and at head coach, who also has been an awesome OC and QB whisperer the last 2 years. And I don't want to take Adam Dustball Thielen, and
Oh God, no.
Deontay's as cromulent and boring as it gets. So give me the big AJ Brown body and speed, and just hope to God he puts it together.
Let's hope AJ Brown and not Mingo.
He had much better production his last year than Mingo ever did. So Mingo would sacrifice his dog to get that production in his senior year, fairly certain, and which we don't advocate, by the way.
I mean, when you're of a certain age, we hope that you've gotten some production at some point, right?
I mean,
but I take a lot of, in all honesty, I've been taking quite a good bit of Leggett, and in my dynasty auction, you'll be very happy to know I priced out a very certain competitor out of being able to snipe him from me, who did try it the last 5 minutes. By the
name
name
names,
of
Steph. Name names.
Bindles could not get Leggett, and he
Bindles.
really wanted to because I put him at the spot where he would be out of money. He tried in less like hour of the clock running down.
The B and Bindle stands for
We know he
bitched out. No, that's great.
likes a
also,
little bit of-
I see you come in peace, Dad. It's all love.
So after going running back heavy and then getting Leggett, obviously we've got our outs to quarterback. We've got Jared Goff still falling. I mean, if Goff makes it to us 26 spots by a state EP, we just in terms of anyone else in this range you've been drafting a lot of, Steph? Oh, there goes Goff.
Burton, or
Damn.
And
Burton
I
would give us
I
better
like
correlation.
I don't think we need, like, I'm good pushing running back for a while with the 4 we got. Like,
I think Burton
unless
allows us
somebody
to be
falls.
finished.
Yeah, Burton
I'm a
Burton
fan.
I like.
Yep, works for me. Gives a little bit of
And
week
it gives us good
17
correlation.
Yep.
So now we got well, we don't really have another option. That's another week 14. I forget. That's the only thing I hate about Stroud and Lamar, because then when you try to get him with those late quarterbacks, be careful of not doing the double bye weeks.
The bye weeks this year feel more difficult than easily the last 2 or 3 years. It's sometimes you've just got to do it for the sake of doing it, but
I'm pretty sure Roger Goodell and co were like, who were the fun fantasy teams and picks? Because fuck those fantasy players. We are overlapping all of the fun teams and quarterbacks, and it's sad. It's frustrating, but we're building a great team regardless, and we'll be fine.
It's a fun team.
I like adding the rookies there, the wide receivers. We don't have much in terms of rookie running back, but as long as you get a few rookies, I always feel quite good about my rosters. But yeah, so what, we're 3 picks away. We've got enough to be done at wide receiver now with a 1-4-7-1. In terms of tight end or quarterback, what are we looking at, Tyler?
Not really anything at tight end right now. Quarterback, same thing, unless we want to set something up.
I was like, we had Cade. So if we are going, if we are going for possibly, that's our week 17, and then there's 2 quarterbacks there we have an option for as well. Even though he's not my favorite guy, but we have Laporta.
Yeah, I like that as
unless something else.
No.
I mean, unless something else, I like Tyler Algier a lot. If we wanted to go back, I don't think we don't need to do quarterback. Really, we can do anything we want, guys.
So what are we doing?
A lot of luxury.
Let's go Tyler Algier and push it.
Yeah, he won't be there. I think then we're done.
I think we're done at running back, and we can just use this. But if Cade Otton makes it back around, I'd happily take him and then maybe push Baker on a bit and see if we can get that to fall.
Mm-hmm.
And if he doesn't fall, then we just pivot to Bryce Young.
Well, that's kind of, I was going to say we have that out, so I'm comfortable doing that as well.
Yep, I'll agree.
You happy with that, Tyler?
Look, man, I can make anything a masterpiece. So you just gotta tell me what you want. Bake it up.
Picasso, baby.
Motherfucking Picasso. No, it's a fun team.
Ben Sinat's a bit of an interesting player because, like, when drafts first opened, I thought he was just going to keep getting steamed up. Like, Rotoviz guys are really heavy into him. There was, I think, Eric Beinford was pretty into him, and then he's falling. But like on drafters, he's sitting at like 195 in ADP. I've seen him on DraftKings hit the 200s. Are you guys taking much Ben Sinat?
I have recently started taking a lot. Okay, I've recently been able to get a lot more Jaden Daniels. It wasn't that I was trying to avoid him before, but it was like I was never able to get him. Like people were always in my drafts at least reaching on him and stuff. So in correlation, yeah, I have no problem taking him there. So I've been taking more, and his price is a lot more palatable here for me than when he got steamed up. And I do a lot of elite tight end, so I'm pretty good at pairing them with like a rookie or somebody later as well. But I'm not overweight unless,
Most of my Sinat's only coming when I have Jaden, really. And even then, I am comfortable pushing it because I've probably already got Jaden with one of Terry and B-Rob. I am fine missing out on Sinat to get McCaffrey instead. Both Sinat and McCaffrey fall pretty regularly, so I'm fine just getting them at their cheapest. Because again, I don't need Jaden stacked up beyond, wide receiver 1. And so a lot of my Sinat and McCaffrey's in like 170s to 190s. And then at that point, like I'm happy with the bet that if they only hit 1 or 2 weeks when it matters, they paid off.
Yeah.
Especially because like Cliff can be weird with the whole rollout thing. If Ertz wasn't there, I mean, I would chase Sinat all the way up into the Kincaid range, but Ertz is there.
Yeah.
All right.
That's my concern. Let's
do.
Yeah.
Which way do you want to do it?
Otten and Baker. Let me see.
I don't know if the room who has what.
Godwin went to the Hurts team.
How many?
Only has one title.
Well, I'd go
ahead and take on.
Yeah.
Because then we got our week 17 bring back, and it gives us both quarterback options.
And it gives us if we only do motherfucker. If we only do
I recognize that name. I don't know offhand, but I bet they're in the checks. I'm like, I recognize that person.
I was just about to say, Stafford and Aaron Rodgers have both dropped pretty sizably, so it feels like we should get Mayfield back. But of course, one pick after us, sniped bastards.
Yeah, they're probably listening. Probably think it's cool to,
more like be park my
troll,
foot up your ass
to troll the streamers.
Well, I mean, if you have Hurts, I understand not wanting to like take a third quarterback if you don't have to. So if you have a falling guy, take him to stack, blah, 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 blah. But it pisses me off.
Do they have anybody with Baker? I didn't see.
Yeah,
okay. I was like, okay.
And they've got Adam Thielen as well. So yeah, maybe that was an oversight on us.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, you're not gonna like it when we snipe you on McMillan later. No. Hey, it's correlated. No.
Oh, Steph, I want to ask you about Juwan Johnson with the Jones fracture potential, because we still don't know what he's got. He's supposed to get surgery this week, so we'll find out. But assuming he has a Jones fracture, the median expectation is he's out 2 to 4 games if they follow the timelines, which they should, but it's the Saints, and that medical staff cannot be trusted as far as they can be thrown, as far as I'm concerned. How are you thinking and working through Juwan?
I don't know, and that's when I need to go back. I mean, fracture, not scary. Jones fracture, terrifying.
Okay.
I mean, just the way it supports the foot, we've seen the production dip off. It's a really hard injury to come back from. You do need to keep even the rehab that goes through, because you got to keep the weight off completely and stuff. You can lose a lot of strength fast and take some time revving up. It's more concerning than if it was just a basic fracture somewhere else.
Okay. What do we want to do here?
You just take Bryce Young and get that stack, and
yeah, because there's nothing jumping out that we need. Let's just not be too cute. We got lucky earlier.
So you're worried if it is a Jones fracture, you're pretty much staying away no matter what, is kind of what I'm hearing.
No, I think late enough, because I do think he'll come back. It's not, Yeah, I mean, he's getting to that point, and it's not like, and I mean, what are you really expecting out of him, anyways, other than a few maybe touchdown, big
Yeah,
spike
you just want
weeks,
some touchdown
red
spikes
zone, and he
anyway.
can stand there, converted wide receiver in the red zone that they like to throw to.
Right.
Tight ends, it's less concerning than other positions as well,
Mm-hmm.
a
Okay.
little bit. Just in general, same thing with ACLs. They end like a running back, but
Yeah.
it's not
Well,
great. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, but I mean, if he's falling into like 17, 18, I'll still, especially if I'm an elite guy, take a shot there probably.
well, especially assuming it's like if he's missing a lot of camp and he's gonna miss 2 to 4 games, which is I think likely given timeline. Then he probably starts slow coming out of that. Like Edwin Porras was saying that if it is a Jones fracture and they sit him for the amount of time he should sit, he should see no real dip in efficiency and production coming out physically, but mentally he could miss valuable reps in camp. But then I'm thinking, okay, then I'm just viewing him as a late season play at tight end, and in 17th, 18th round, I don't need more than that. So I'm not too concerned with it because if he was probably going to be a 3 tight end build anyway. So I'm kind of viewing it like that. But I'm ready to change my tune if we get worse news on the injury, I guess.
It's not as much the efficiency. There's a big re-injury risk, and it's how much he loses. Like I said, because you got to keep your weight off.
Right.
It's not just not getting those reps. It's like you can't do anything.
Do we
much
want JJ
rehab-wise.
McCarthy here to just be done at quarterback with a 3 QB build, stacking with Justin Jefferson? We've got that Green Bay bring back.
I think so.
We have the luxury to do it, and I need to do more 3 RB build or QB builds. I feel like because I don't do that enough. It makes
So
sense here.
is there anything standing out with, so we'll service the audio listeners as we also game plan for our last round pick. We have a 3-5-7-2 build going into the last round with CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and JJ McCarthy at quarterback. Najee Harris, Devin Singletary, Tajay Spears, Javonte Williams, Tyler Algier at running back, Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Christian Watson, Xavier Third Leggett, Jermaine Burton, and at tight end, Sam Laporta, Cade Otton.
Works for me. It's a nice team. I don't know about
Do we?
you, Steph,
Is
but,
anything standing out as like the position we would want to add to the most?
I feel like we're pretty strong everywhere, and we can just really do whoever we like the best.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely works for me in terms
Other than quarterback, we're not doing a 4 quarterback team.
Oh no,
You don't want to tack on Justin Fields as a 4th quarterback and really unlock the Gigabrain leverage. It'd be littered with game theory. We have to do it.
I had myself quite a polite but fun argument with Colm Kelly of Rotoviz last week on his channel when he made a pitch to draft Justin Fields for about the 4th week in a row on our streams, and I don't want to do it anymore.
No, I think an underdog 18 rounds, 4 quarterback is almost as bad as 4 tight end.
Yeah, I mean, this was in 20 round format, but still, it just doesn't feel that great. So what, we're 1 pick away. Steph, as the guest, I feel like, you got to round this one out. Whatever you feel works best for this one. Happy to defer to yourself.
Let's see. Yeah, I think let's go ahead and go for the double stack.
With Sanders?
Yeah, I don't take much of him after he, but it makes sense.
This running back room is not super appealing to you. You don't look at all these sexy names.
I mean, that's usually where I live, so they don't seem that bad.
No, I like this, and I think I've definitely been trying to build a little bit more balanced at times this year. When it gets to training camp, I'll start building more fragile, start doing stuff. But with this quarterback room and with this tight end room, I know we took Sam Laporta early, but we got a bit of a fall on him, and it just for stacking purposes, for game stack, we just need one of Cade Otton or Jatavian Sanders to go off if Sam Laporta doesn't in week 17. And yeah, it feels fine to me. Steph, you feel pretty pleased with the team, or?
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I didn't. As we started, I definitely didn't foresee it being, having 3 at the 1 seeds on this team. But we had so much luxury picks, it made sense. yes, normally you don't want to do, too much draft capital when you take those players that early. But once you're already solid, it doesn't really matter at that point. Then it's just
Especially
like
when
the
the stack.
correlation. Yeah, exactly. The correlation can overpower it. And there's been some good data about, 3 quarterback and 3 tight end builds
A
still.
lot of it. It's really powerful in the
So-
playoffs, which is the hardest part to get the fuck out of. So
Well, because you never know. Anything can happen in over 1 week.
you just don't.
We just don't know. Say the line. No.
Say the line, Bart.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it can be a bit tempting to just lean a little too fragile and try to lean into our edge as people who are grinding the best ball streets and go, okay, well, I can be willing to take less of this position than the field because I know I can make up for it in other ways. But when you look at the kind of numbers of teams that do have 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, sometimes it's just kind of worth leaning into that and saying, okay, well, this team does have weaknesses in a couple of spots compared to teams with, say, Josh Allen or perhaps even Travis Kelce or CMC. But if you're building well enough that it can be quite balanced, then perhaps it can carry itself into the playoffs. And then all it really takes is that one week 17 game that hits for it to go all the way to the top of the leaderboard. Shout out to this fan in the chat saying, great stream, everyone. Hit the like button and become a member. I mean, for less than the price of a Big Mac meal, you can become a member of Fantasy Sanctuary, get Rich's Dynasty Rankings, trade value, calculator, all that, 200-page rookie guide, my best ball rankings for both Underdog and DraftKings, loads more, as well as access to our Discord. Tyler, how do you feel about his team?
I love it. Anytime we can stack up 3 quarterbacks with tight ends, like I don't always try to go 3 at the onesies, but it's very viable, especially when it's stacked and correlated. And the fact that we got our preferred quarterback stacked up after ADP, after kind of like a tier break of, once Anthony Richardson goes, I'm very comfortable taking Stroud at that point. So we have him double stacked up with Diggs and Nico. Big fan of that. The running backs, like this is probably the most unique 5 running back team I have, but we got viable RB1s, RB2s with nice spikes and nice, contingent versus standalone versus youth versus bounce back Javante season. So I'm not mad about it. And this is I like building unique teams to help my portfolio because left to my own devices, I will tend to build the same damn team 10,000 Davis times, and that does not help me. So no, this team's super fun. And I also haven't gotten a lot of Laporta, but I'm enjoying that when I do get him, it's after ADP. Would I love to get him with Jared Goff 2 rounds after ADP? Absolutely. But what's better than a Jared Goff stacked up Laporta? It's all 3 quarterbacks stacked up with tight ends and wide receivers. So I'm not mad about that, especially because Bryce has sneaky rushing upside. Many people forget that that little chipmunk can scramble. So very excited for that.
It's fun.
Yeah, I know. Just the only other thing I was going to mention, I might have zoned out. I missed you saying this, Tyler, but like none of the running backs have the same bye week, and like if you're going to go a bit more fragile with these guys, then you're talking about a week 9, week 11, week 5, week 14, week 12. It just makes it so much easier to be able to tell yourself a story about how that running back room's going to operate week to week.
Yeah, I totally looked at that while we were drafting as well, and that was my plan all along. Now, I never look at bye weeks, and we're very lucky that we didn't end up with
it's like
all this. I'm bad about it until it's too late. Sometimes I'm like, oh.
It's something when I'm drafting on my own, I pay attention to all the time. The moment you jump on a stream, it's so easy to forget the bye weeks, and occasionally get myself into trouble with it. But any closing thoughts from you two on this team or anything else about you want to add?
I do want to just check on our friend Alex Keaton who started RB, and he finished with a 3.582 build with Caleb, Deshaun, Drake May, Brees Gibbs, Kamani, Keaton, and
he recovered pretty
Jordan.
well.
An interesting
At
build.
wide receiver.
So
I mean,
Cooper, Dunze, Rice, Sutton, Shakir, Ricky Pearsall, Javon. So like a lot of the younger guys targeting that unknown upside, and then just the 2 tight ends with solid roles, and banking the potential breakout of Pat Shitsmooth. So yeah, fun team.
I mean, that's it. Like, if you're gonna start RBRB, then waiting another 130 picks or so before taking your next one feels like the kind of way you've got to do it. I think there's plenty of fun there. And then, I mean, talk about a scroll VF down player in Jawar Jordan, not somebody that's drafted.
The perfect player to leverage off of, Damian Pierce. Famously didn't draft much of him last year. So, if he didn't fit the system last year, he's definitely going to fit it this year, right? Like,
I picked him up off waivers in a really deep dynasty league. That was pretty barren, but I mean, why not? Like he's not someone I've taken in these, but he's on somewhat of deep flyer radar. Of
you talking about Jawar? Yeah. I won't be surprised if we get buzz that he's mixing in. I just have a sneaking suspicion that they'll probably just give Mixon like 80 to 85% of the work, and the rest of that just gets split up between Dare Ungabulale, who still exists, and Jawar and Dame. And I just won't be surprised if it's like 3 dudes mixing in for scraps. And then if Mixon goes down, this feels like a team that's just going to go like sign a guy, or trade for a vet versus give it over to any of the young guys, unless Jawar pops. And I haven't heard a damn thing about Jawar yet. And I'm local when I see all the stupid hype about player like John Mechie's in the best shape and he's moving so well, guys, and he looks fantastic in shorts. And I haven't heard a peep about Jawar, so I don't know.
But I do like that, like, as a theory sort of leverage play, because Damian Pierce, like you say, Tyler, he's probably not going to come back and all of a sudden clicked with the scheme. And that feels like a much more realistic trade in some ways than Khalil Herbert, because Khalil Herbert, he knows the scheme, he's been around it, and they seem to like him. Whereas, like, here, there just seems no logical fit for Damian Pierce. So if he gets moved, which would be a cheap trade to probably make, then all of a sudden, you're talking about a player who's now being drafted, never going to being drafted, probably most of the time at the back end, even if there's no news about him.
I don't like this conversation because when I hear cheap and running back and think of teams that could be traded to, and the guy that I have absolutely zero of, that's not what I want on my most heavy running back taken so far.
I'll be the one brave enough to say that everybody's afraid of Samaje Perine. Be not afraid of Samaje Perine. Be afraid of Kareem Hunt. He is literally free right now, and he does all the things. I didn't say well. He does all the things. And in a system like Houston's, coming over from like the Stefanski Brown stuff, I think that's the one that makes more sense, because then you don't have to worry about clearing waivers and all that other bullshit and blah, 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 blah. Like, that's the guy I'm not going to be surprised if he mixes in again as like Cam Akers from like 2 years ago of like, hey, we late season injury, you're a guy off the street that just fits the system prominently, and we signed you and we did it.
Tyler,
yes, I am defending my 40% Kareem Hunt bags in the big board.
I was going to say, just because I know your exposure on Kareem Hunt on the big board and gave you a lot of shit about it, you don't have to bag defend here.
I'm not bag defending. I'm giving brains. This is a new slate. Okay, this is post draft. Okay, I haven't taken any Hunt yet. But if I was staring between Kareem Hunt and Jawar Jordan, I'll take Kareem Hunt.
So
are these my only options in this scenario?
In this universe, yes. I would have taken Justice Hill. I would have taken Justice Hill instead of Keaton Mitchell if I was only going 5 running backs, because Keaton's probably out like 7 to 9 weeks this season, and Henry's there. So I think Justice Hill is the better pick in that room, in my opinion, because you don't have to worry about, because also coming off that ACL, his athletic profile is fine. It's not like elite. I think he's got like at least elite burst or something. But
he looked pretty elite when he was on the field. His numbers.
I mean, yeah, he was a little mouse that could, for sure. Yeah. But if he's going to come back like week 7 or 8, take 2 to 4 weeks to ramp up, I'm like, I get round 18 pick. You're just hoping it hits like the last week. But again, in a 5 running back build, I probably do justice for like the random fill-in stuff. But that's me.
But I just don't. I haven't been taken, and I was a justice truther, so it's hard. But I don't know. But to
I can't
me,
wait.
it's like if I have a strong enough running back room and I'm like correlating it,
Yeah, you just go
and
with
that's
the
mostly what I do. And it's like if I'm betting on that game to go off, who in that offense could just randomly get the ball once and run it the entire length of the field and score a ridiculous amount of points and just go all A chain. It's Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah, I don't disagree theoretically.
All right. Well, we are going to get out of here, but before we do, Steph, I know you were saying you've got more stuff coming down the pipeline. What have you been working on that people might see soon?
Yeah, I'm doing a dynasty auction startup, and I am going to be writing on the league and auction strategy for dynasty. And it's a best ball, but I think the auction strategy will just be kind of auction strategy dynasty overall. I also pretty recently had a startup strategy guide also published on the site, and up working on keeping our dynasty rankings fresh and updated every week. And then in season, I'll be doing all of the waiver content and focusing on a lot of the high stakes, and I'll still have some home league stuff for people. But yeah, so a lot of fun stuff to look forward to.
Awesome. We definitely appreciate you coming on and joining us. Tyler, you're a man about town and popping up on streams left, right, and center. Where are you going to be this week?
I think Fantasy Garage, aka Candyman on Underdog. I'll be joining him for a late night vibe session.
Nice.
So if you want me in the most relaxed way possible, because it'll feel weird to be high energy with someone that relaxed, that'll be Thursday night, I believe, tentatively. Other than that, with the in-laws in town, I haven't signed up for too many things this week. But if you see it pop up, I'm escaping. So stay tuned.
And of course, you will be back here on Friday at 3:30 Eastern for our show with Pete. I'll be back on Wednesday for a DraftKings show. Guess TBC at the minute. That one's a little up in the air, but we'll also have more Dynasty content from Rich. Truly appreciate everyone in the chat hanging out with us tonight. Appreciate Steph coming on. We'll be back soon.